Welcome to the AI Preview Show with me, Davey B, Bomber McCormack, and Dylan Fitzsimons. I've asked the lads to come up with their anti-post picks for the Star Sports and TRC Events and Leisure English Greyhound Derby. Dylan, what are you excited about the competition?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it now. The last few weeks since the tins have been changed, the coasters definitely made the track a bit fairer. It's, in my opinion, brought the Irish dogs into it a lot more as well, because it's probably gone from a track you needed 7 or 8 spins around to be happy with your dog there to, I'd say most of the lads going over after giving their dog 1 or 2 trials would be fairly content with the circuit. Obviously, due to the abandoned meeting last Tuesday, there's a fair few dogs, primarily from Graham Holland's kennel, coming in with no look around, sweep the yard, one here, a few others just off the top of my head. So it's one of them. That's not ideal, but it really shouldn't deter from the event. The first round draw went smoothly. There's plenty of specials markets up there that for people to get stuck into, and it's just all roads lead to Thursday night now. The weather is meant to be brilliant all week. The track is, well, the track's going to be like it usually is. It'll probably be slow to start the meetings, and by race 12 on the 3 nights, I'd say we'll see a few track record. I'd say we can see the track record down more than a few times in the first round. They'll probably continue to get broken as the weather gets better. But, yeah, all roads lead to Thursday now. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, so am I. Bomber, are you looking forward to the comp?
Yeah, look, Davey, it's Derby fever. It's the first Derby. It's the second most important Derby on the calendar. So I know, look, it's been looking forward to this now for a long time. Just with last year with COVID and that, the Derby was run late enough in October, and they got it together, but you missed that kind of summer event, and it was after the Irish Derby, and the prize money was a lot less last year. It was 50,000 to the winner in the Derby Nottingham last year, and look, fair enough, they got it ran off, but this year I think it's £175,000 to the winner. So we're back to the big money, and we're back to Toaster after a couple of years off, 2 years in Nottingham. So look, the track's changed. It's going to make the Derby more interesting. I think you don't know what's going to be able to run the track. It's not as easy as, for the Irish perspective, it's not going to be as straightforward as top Shelbourne Park dogs will be able to run the track like they could at Wimbledon or Nottingham. So look, there's going to be different dogs that are going to surprise people who can handle the track. People say the Irish dogs are going to hammer the English dogs. I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I think we saw Toaster the last 2 times. It was at the Derby, and 2 English winners, and dogs like Astute Missile and that were big surprises. So look, it's an open enough contest. I think the Irish are going over with between 40 and 50 dogs, which is great to see. It's as big as a team as I can remember going over for a Derby. So look, we're giving it a fair go, and look, it's just going to be top class racing. Delighted. Hopefully I'll get over for maybe a couple of the later rounds, and the crowds are back in, and we're back to normal times, and hopefully we have a good Derby ahead of us.
Definitely. Well, I've asked the lads to give us 3 anti-post selections and an outsider. So Dylan, I'll come to you first for your first anti-post pick.
The first dog I've come down on is Night Tornado of Larry Dunce. He's only had the 1 spin around Toaster, 29.72. It was more than pleasing, I'm sure, for connections. He's had 1 race since the Juvenile Derby, the back end of September, October last year. So what's that, 6-7 months? He's only had the 1 race. It was in the Easter Cup. Missed his break, roared to the 3rd bend and behind top dogs, and fell in a heap on the running. I thought at 33 to 1, there's probably still a small bit of juice left in the price. He's done a few big solo trials, which is always going to be the case with a dog as fast as him. He has 27.88 in the Puppy Derby last year. So, it comes as no surprise that he can do these big runs. I do think he's one of the dogs, though, that last week, that was probably a key week in Larry's preparation for the dog, which was getting that first race back last week. Would have put him spot on for this week. So look, he might be a half a length vulnerable this week. I certainly wouldn't steam into him in the first round. I think he'd be a much improved dog come the 2nd and 3rd round and qualify safely. but he took to the traps well in his first trial around there, which is a big thing with this dog. He's had small issues with starting in his limited racing career to date, but if he does trap on turns, there's very, very few dogs in this competition that will match him for pace from the winning line to winning line. He's just all class. He's massive 2 to 3, and he stays the 550 strong. And I know some people question his ability to stay that further than 525. I always had my Tornado down the dog that could even stay further than 550. I think if he ever landed back into Shelburne at 575 or something, the 3 long straights would just play right up his street. He'd just burn any top rivals off down the back. I originally thought Toaster might not play into his strengths, but he trialled so well around the place, and he since trialled well in Shelburne on a Saturday night. So, a few decent trap draws. He's an inside runner, but I'd be happy of seeing him in 2, 3, or 4, just drawn off the fence. I don't think he's massively trap dependent. It's more going to be about what's around him. You just don't want something interfering with him on the run up from his right or left hand side. So, with a bit of luck in the draw, which is always going to be needed in a derby, he definitely has the ability and he has the class to win a derby. So 33 to 1 is probably more than fair, even if the price has collapsed on him in the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
So Dylan's first anti-post pick is Night Tornado. Bomber, what's your first pick?
Yeah, I'm afraid I didn't go for a really big outsider, but I went for Knocknabill Sid. It's my first pick. Look, he's up at the top of the betting, and rightly so. I just think coming into Toaster, there's a lot of the unknown going into this derby since the track's changed. It's not as straightforward as, top dogs in certain tracks will come over and bring that to form to Toaster. But I just think Knocknabill ticks all the boxes that what I've seen of Toaster so far. You want to be in front, and you want a consistent dog at the boxes. And look, Knocknabill Sid is a consistent dog at traps, and he's just an ultra consistent dog, and he's got the class as well. He's not just a dog that he's a one trick, he's a 2-card trick. He's just a pure class animal. He went over the English Derby last year. He won the first 3 rounds. I think he broke the split clock to the bend in Nottingham. He was unlucky to go out in the quarter final. He got, I think it was the night where it was the bad weather, and he got nearly flipped over the first bend. But he came back to Ireland then, and he won the Kingdom Derby quite impressively in the final. It took him a few races coming back from Nottingham to settle back, but he did. He won the final in a good field with the likes of Native Maestro and Ballymac Wild. And then I think he went into the Gold Cup then. He got to the final. He went off favourite in the final. Didn't go right from the final, but he went into the Easter Cup, and then he won the Easter Cup. He's just an ultra-consistent competition dog. He's got the early pace. I don't think he's necessarily a ridiculously fast early pace dog in the terms of your likes of Skywalker Barry's or Brody's Magic or this. But within the 550 dogs, he's a different grade of early pace, and he's just a brilliant trapper. He can really come out through the bars. He just in the Easter Cup, I think he won every round bar new in session betting one night. There's no disgrace in that. Billy's Diva was probably the best bitch and the best Greyhound in the Easter Cup, but Knocknabill Sid was just doing it every night, and he got to the final. He had a bad draw on 6, and he got the job done. And to be fair to Pat Buckley, he's been well minded for this competition since he's won the Easter Cup. He's had no races. He's had one official sprint, 1850 in Limerick, and I think it was a 28-26 for 55 trial in Limerick as well. And he had a trial in Toaster. I think he did 29-40 off a 4:18 sectional, and around that's what you need around there at the moment. Them kind of sectionals. I think if you can break 4:25, you're going to go well to the bend most nights. And look, Knocknabill Sid, he just ticks all the boxes for me. Look, he's probably a 16 to 1 shot, but at the end of the day, you're trying to pick an animal to win the Derby, and he's just a class animal. And to be fair, the Easter Cup, the dogs that win the Easter Cup have a great strike rate in the English Derby. They always go well. Like JT Jet won the Easter Cup, he won the English Derby. It's like Wolf won the Easter Cup, he got to the final. A couple of other dogs back in the day, Premier Fancy, Minneola Farlow, Char King. So look, he's a class animal. He's well prepared for the competition. He ticks all the boxes for me. I just don't think he can go wrong back and Knocknabill Sid. I think no matter what price you back him at 16 to 1, 20 to 1, it's going to look big after a few rounds. So I'll stick with Knocknabill Sid for the first one anyway.
So Bomber's first pick is Knocknable Sid. I'm quite surprised he didn't copy Dylan, to be fair. Dylan, what's your second anti-post pick?
My second anti-post pick, and the dog I've been backing for the last few days, is Greyhound out of Liam Dowling's. For the very quiet syndicate, he trialed extremely well today. He did 29.49, if I got it correctly. It's a perfect first look. He's not a dog that's ever going to burn a place up first time round. He's quite awkward on the bends. He's not at a 4-bend race since the Gain 600. So it's one of them. What was I going to say? He's not had a 4-bend run for a while. I thought he tied up a small bit coming home. He missed the third and fourth bend, sort of, and he was the Easter Cup finalist in the field with Knocknable Sid and Billy's Diva, and he was. It's hard to know. He didn't really look himself in the final. He definitely went back to his old easing on the bends. So it's just one of them. You're taking on trust. He's going to stay sound. Going to stay sound through the competition. But if he does, he's been given a very nice heat the first week. I've put him in odds on. If he does stay sound, there's not too many faster. Well, dare I say, you could probably count on one hand how many dogs would trial quicker Great Name that if they were geared up for a trial session. So at 66, you really can't go wrong as an each way proposition.
So Dylan's second pick is Great Name That. Bomber, what's your second pick?
I feel like I'm going for the captain obvious pick, but I went for Ballymac Ariel. Look, she's just an airplane. Like, there's no point to pretend otherwise. She did 27.93, I believe, for qualifying trial in Shelburne as a pup, and it's just off the charts. Like, it's just one of them runs. She's just one of them bitches. They're just special, and they only really come around every couple of years. You don't get one every year, every 2 years. Like, every couple of, you just get a dog that's just so much faster than everything else, and she is just so much faster than everything else in trials. Like, she had a 2-dog trial at Ballymac Wild today, and she just destroyed them to the third bend, and she bet them nearly 3.5 lengths the line. Like, Ballymac Wild was an Irish Derby finalist. He won 4 rounds of the Derby. He was the favourite, odds-on favourite to win the Ledger. He won the Gain 600 in Shelburne Park. Like, she's just a machine. Like, and look, she had a disappointing start to the year. She's obviously had her issues. I do know she did a massive private trial in Limerick before the Kirby, though. She did 28.02. So look, something obviously went miss in the Kirby. I have noticed a fluctuation in her weights. She has gone up a lot now. She was running at 73 and 74 pound in Limerick. Well, last year when she was doing the big runs at Shelburne, she was 68, 69 pounds. So look, maybe that's a factor. She's come back down to around 72 now. She was 75 actually in Tralee for a sprint, I think 2 weeks ago, but she's back down now to a reasonable weight for her, which you can see in her trials in Toaster. She did 29.11 in Toaster. So look, she's flying. Her one Achilles heel is probably her trapping. It's a bit inconsistent. She trapped very poorly in the Easter Cup, and she trapped poorly in the Kirby. Now, her splits in her last few trials, she seems to have come away from that again. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping. But I just think there's not a dog in the UK or Ireland that can match her pace. She's just that good. I think she broke 28 seconds twice in Shelburne as a pup. She's beaten Billy's Diva. She's beaten a lot of big names. She's just a class animal. And hopefully, not even from a punting point, but I just think from a watch point, I think a viewer's point, we all want to see Ballymac Ariel at her best. She's just a top class machine. And hopefully you could just see her. I've no doubt she could break 29 seconds in Toaster in a race if she hits the front. You wouldn't even know what she'd do. She could do 28.80, 28.90. It just, you wouldn't know where the clock would stop, and this bitch is right. And hopefully we get to see the best for her. But look, she's the only dog I've actually backed anti-post for this year's Derby. I got her around 40-1. So look, hopefully she goes well, and hopefully we get to see the best of Ballymac Ariel in this year's Derby.
Hopefully so. So Bomber's second pick is Ballymac Ariel. Fitzy, what's your third pick? You're still on mute, Fitzy.
Cheers, Davey. My third pick's a bit of a left field one. I'll be at the same price as Greyhound in that I don't think he represents the same chance as Greyhound in that I'd be a lot stronger on G&T than I would Bombardier for Pat Buckley. He's a dog that really showed up in the Kirby. I thought he had a few adverse draws, but the night he got drawn near the fence, he really started to show his class. Now, we all know the seeding system in England lends itself to give railers better draws than it does in Ireland. You're a lot less likely to be stuck in 4, 5, and 6, which will play into this dog's hands. He's only had 10 races. He's 66 to 1. It is a shade too big, especially from an each way perspective. He's a kind of dog that can keep qualifying. But if you were to offer me a great name that versus Bombardier match bet who'd go furthest, there's not enough money in the world you could have on great name that at any odds this side of 1 to 2 probably. So it's hard to say. It's a fully vested pick at 66, but I have invested a small few quid in them. I think he's a sharp trapper, so the short one to the bend can play into his hands. And from there, if he does get tapped for toe, say from the winning line to the third bend, there's going to be an awful lot of dogs that'll take ground out of Bombardier, but from the third bend home, he should be one of the quickest in the competition. So from what I've seen at Toaster, it's not the easiest place to pass dogs, especially not for middle to rails middle sort of dog Bombardier is. So if he can just keep trapping out and just keep pulling himself into second or third out the second bend, you're talking 10s, 20s on to qualify from them sort of positions. He is a dog that can still just keep coming forward. He's a real Pat Buckley entry into the competition, a nice scopy young dog. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if he popped out one night and did it 29, 10 or 15. He's that fast. I don't think he'll win too many heats, but he's the type that can just keep on qualifying.
So Fitzy's third pick is Bombardier. Bomber, what's your third pick?
Yeah, look, Davey, I went for a bit more value now than the first two picks, but I went for All About Ted as my third pick. I just think this dog, he's pretty underrated. They're not the shrewd lads like Dylan, and they all know him well. But look, he's a very fast dog. He's a very lightly raced dog. But to be fair to him, he's in the right kennel to be for an English Derby. He's with Peter Crone, and look, Peter Crone's had an unbelievable record in the English Derby over the last few years. The likes of Croker's Champ and Tim Wild Bish finishing second and third, and Whoops Jack got to the final and Toaster the first year as well, and Swithin's Bray, and that went well as well. So look, this dog I think is Crone's best chance in English Derby. He's very lightly raced. He ran around the Comfort Cakes at the end of last year, and he was doing 28, 30 runs, but I think he's only had a handful of 5 or 6 races. He went into the Kirby in the first round, and he beat a really good field. He beat Agent Standy and he beat Ballymac Cashow. And I remember from doing the preview, it was one of the hottest first round heats. And I actually didn't give him any chance in the race just because he'd been off for so long. And yeah, the time wasn't great. I think he only did 28.70 or something. But, I'm not sure if the dog has had injury problems or he's just well-minded. It's one or the other. But when this dog is right, he's an absolute machine. He did 29.60 for his first trial in Toaster, off a pretty quick split as well. So look, that's a big favour. He's massive early pace. I just think, as Dylan said, you want to be out in front of Toaster. It's very hard to pass dogs. And since the traps changed, trap 6 dogs seem to have a great chance in it now, which All About Ted is. He's a wide, early pace dog, so he might just fit this profile. He had a sprint after racing today. He did 15.76. Now look, the track was good, but when you're watching the sprint stake on a couple of weeks ago and you're watching Bocco's John Joe and them types and Shrewd Call, he's probably within 10 spots of what they can do, and he will get the 500. And even if he doesn't stay it, he's probably going to be a long way in front in a lot of heats. I think if he meets the right dogs, he doesn't obviously want to be into the early paces. If he can get into the races with the stronger running types, he's a major player, and I couldn't see him get past out first, second, or third. So look, my concern would be his lack of racing. He probably needs 1 or 2 races under his belt. If he can get to the likes of the third round, he probably becomes a major player. I think he's a big price. He's 66-1, some places 50-1. It's decent value. And I just think you could see the best of all about Ted in the English Derby this year. And, I'll go for him anyway.
So Bomber's third pick is all about Ted. I've asked the lads to give us an outsider. So Fitzy, what's your outsider?
He's not a huge price. Now he's 125-1 in places, 100 general, but it's Sweep the Yard for Graham Holland and the Broken Bookie Syndicate. He's a dog I backed in the Derby Plate in Shelburne for very good money last year, and a few of us backed him actually. I think it was 14s into 6s, something like that, and I think he went off 14-1 the final, so that sums that bet up. But he's a very, very quick dog. I think he was in the Cork stake, the Clona Blaze of Stud stake that Kevin O'Brien sponsored for good money a few weeks ago, and he landed into the final, and he was in with Skywalker, Barry, Shomer, Nate, etc. A very good class of dog, and he came there pulling double at the third bend. You're sort of going, Skywalker Barry's the best five dog in Ireland. That I have no doubt about. So Sweep the Yard was coming, making ground, hand over fist at him in the last 50 yards. I think he was beat about a length and a quarter, a length in the end, and he was up near him. Come where the 550 finish should be, sort of 25 yards after the line. He's a real character. He's the kind of dog he'll keep a bit up his sleeve. And he was one of the aforementioned Graham Holland dogs that was down to trial on the Tuesday meeting that got cancelled. But to be honest with you, I think not having a trial might be the best thing that could have happened to this dog, because in my opinion, if he was to go around Toaster week on week, he could just very easily get a bit bored of it. And I think it's safe to say at times he's shown he has other ideas about the game, but he's an extremely pacey dog. He kept Ballymac Wild very honest in the Easter Cup to the winning line. He was level with them at the second bend, and Ballymac Wild only held on in a photo. So, you're talking about a dog at 125-1 that's put up the Ballymac Wild Skywalker Barry in the recent past. He did 29.40 as a pup. He could just keep qualifying. Toasters, that's sort of niche track where dogs spill off up the running. He'll be on the fence chasing dogs down. You'll definitely want to have him in the betting with else your forecasts, your tricasts, and it's not outlandish. I think this dog might land at Derby final at 125-1 for a quarter of odds, whatever, 30, 31.5, 32-1 for your place money. And if he was to land the race, he can catch anything. He has the pace. He's shown that before. No dog is safe if he turns second to them. He can just put his head down and get after any dog in training. So actually a dog I'm really looking forward to watching in the next few weeks around there. I think there's a few that fall into that category as well. But just from a class point of view, I think he's just a slight bit classier than the other dogs around that sort of price bracket. So I was happy to land on him.
So Dylan's outsider is Sweep the Yard. Bomber, what's your outsider?
Yeah, look, I kind of went for the same logic as Dylan. I was following the Colombo Blaze 5-5 stake, and I thought the two dogs that showed the most pace, a bar from Skywalker Barry, who's the best 5-5 dog in the country, there's no doubt, and Samara Nate. But the dog who's shown the pace behind was Sweep the Yard, and I went for the other dog, Hello Hammond, trained by Paul Hennessy. I think he's also 150-1 at the moment. This dog is just exceptionally fast as well. He's sort of a similar profile to Sweep the Yard. He's just a complete strong runner. I was watching him in the stake in Cork, and he's about 7 or 8 lengths behind the halfway. And then, they hit the line, he's beaten whatever 3 or 4 lengths. But then into the escape, he's run by everything. He's just an absolute monster home. He ran the 600-yard stake. I actually had never heard of him till Dylan flagged him. I think it was in the first round. He flagged him as causing a bit of trouble as he moves out. But I do think he's seated wide in this year's Derby, which, it will suit him. Now, I wouldn't say he is the best profile for Toaster, being he's going to probably be coming near the back every night. But I just think he's a dog that he could just grab the odd qualifying spot, and you could see him, he could go a couple of rounds. And I was watching him, he ran the 600 race one night, and he was going, toe to toe with Beach Avenue and great named that to the third bend 600, and he actually got trouble. He actually checked up, I think it was the first, second round, him with great named that and Beach Avenue, because he just ran into them. Like, he just had caught up to them at the third bend. So look, he's an exceptionally fast dog. He's 150 to 1. He doesn't win too many races. You know, you can see that in his card. But he's just one of them dogs. You always see them every year in the Derby. They just keep qualifying. And, you know, they just end up in the final. I just think at a big each way poke, you know, I think he's a serious chance. You know, he's on the Paul Hennessy team. You know, people didn't think Price's Play could win the Derby or get to the final. And, you know, Hello Hammond probably could have a similar profile to that type. So, look, I give him a chance of 150 to 1. And, yeah, sure, I'll go for Hello Hammond.
So Bomber's outsider is Hello Hammond. Well, lads, I appreciate you coming on the show. I think Dogges has given up already because he was supposed to join us. Thank you for the drinks in Wetherspoons. I do feel a little pissed. And I look forward to doing some more previews.
Cheers, Davey.